Today on X, Galibaf dropped a short statement. 6 words. Iran's top negotiator, the same guy who sat 21 hours across from Vance in Islamabad, the same guy who got an 80% deal within reach, just said reopening the Strait of Hormuz is not possible. Full stop. Not difficult, not unlikely, not up for debate. Not possible. Here's what you need to understand. I didn't guess this. I didn't throw out an opinion that could have gone either way. Before this war even started, I said Iran would never reopen Hormuz on American terms. Why? Because basic game theory left no other conclusion. And now, on day 55 of the war, the Iranian negotiator confirmed it in 6 words. Let me walk you through 2 things. First, why I was certain Hormuz wouldn't open on U.S. terms, using pure structural logic to show that Galibaf's post wasn't a shock, it was unavoidable. Second, what happens next? Because that statement this morning isn't the ending. It's the clearest signal yet of the next phase, and almost everyone is misreading it. Start with the method. Predictive analysis isn't guessing. It's asking one question. What does each side actually want? Not what they say publicly, what they truly need. America says it wants Hormuz open, Iran's nuclear program gone, a deal, peace. But what America really wants is to prove it still controls the world's most vital energy choke point, to show it can break a regional power, that U.S. military force still dominates global politics. America needs visible submission, Hormuz open on U.S. terms, no conditions, no Iranian authority. That's the only outcome that sends that message. Iran says it wants the blockade lifted, assets unfrozen, sovereignty respected.
See the problem? America can't control Hormuz while Iran runs it. Iran can't lock in authority while America calls it illegal. No middle ground. One wins or neither does. Surrender kills the victory. That's why I said Iran would never cave on U.S. terms, not because they love war, because giving up Hormuz on America's terms means giving up their only permanent leverage. No state voluntarily trashes its own relevance. Simple game theory. Yet Washington kept acting like maximum pressure would break Iran, like bombing would rewrite structural math. 55 days later, Galibaf posted 6 words. Reopening the strait is not possible. But here's the part no one's connecting properly. The real reason Iran isn't folding. They've been bombed for 55 days. Their supreme leader died day 1. Nuclear sites hit. Air defenses damaged. Central bank warns 12 years to recover. Currency down 15%. And still, their negotiator says reopening is impossible. How? One word, China. Not just as a headline ally. China as an economic backbone, built over a decade so that if America ever tried to crush Iran with a blockade, Iran wouldn't crumble. I call it the decade of quiet. And once you see it, Galibaf's 6 words stop sounding like defiance and start sounding like a balance sheet. It started in 2018. Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal. Maximum pressure returned. China made a quiet bet. Not out of love for Iran, but because China imports a third of its oil through Hormuz. America historically controlled that 33-kilometer corridor. If Washington fully weaponized it, China faced an energy crisis. So China built a parallel system. Layer 1, payment architecture. China started buying Iranian oil in yuan, bypassing SWIFT entirely. Iran gets paid. Money never touches the dollar system. America can't touch it. Layer 2, the dark fleet. Ships that turn off tracking. Flags from landlocked countries. Ship-to-ship transfers in Malaysian waters, mixing Iranian crude with other oil. Relabeled, sent to small Chinese refineries that process sanctioned crude without paperwork. China's customs shows 0 Iranian oil. But China's recorded imports of Malaysian crude hit 1.3 million barrels a day, double Malaysia's entire production. That oil was Iranian. The paperwork lied. The system worked through sanctions and continues working through this war. Right now, 157.7 million barrels of Iranian crude are at sea, 97.6% heading to China. Layer 3. Strategic reserves. China entered the war with 1.2 billion barrels stored, bought cheap from Iran and Russia over 2 years. When Hormuz closed and oil jumped above $100, China didn't panic. The economy kept running. Layer 4. Intelligence. Leaked Iranian documents show the IRGC used satellite images from a Chinese commercial firm to target U.S. bases. Prince Sultan, Muwafaq Sulti, the Fifth Fleet Base in Bahrain. China helped Iran see, so Iran could hit precisely. That's the decade of quiet. 10 years of invisible construction. Payment systems, dark fleets, reserves, satellites. No announcements, no treaties, just a quiet build. And today, when Golubov posted reopening isn't possible, he posted it from the foundation.
But here's what the steel man misses. Golubov also said they did not achieve their goals through military aggression, nor will they through bullying. The only way is to accept the rights of the Iranian nation. Rights that include sovereign control over Hormuz, the right to manage passage, to require permission. And that's exactly what America says it cannot accept. The blockade is not just military, it's a legal claim that Iran has no right to control Hormuz. As long as America holds that claim, Golubov's qualifier isn't an opening, it's a permanent condition. The decade of quiet makes that condition survivable. As long as China buys 157.7 million barrels through a system America can't reach, Iran has oxygen, pain without collapse, enough revenue to keep choosing. The gap between pain and collapse is exactly what China built, and that gap is why Golubov posted those 6 words and meant them. So what happens next? 3 structural possibilities. First, pressure crosses the threshold before the USS Bush arrives. Trump gave Iran roughly 3 to 5 days for a unified proposal. The Bush carrier group is taking the long way around Africa, arrives in 3 to 5 days. 3 American carriers in the Gulf. Military math changes. Iran might take a deal now to preserve more than it would under 3-carrier threat. America calls it Hormuz open and free. Iran calls it managed navigation with coordination. Both declare victory. Trump wins. Golubov says Iran defended its sovereignty. Ships coordinate with Iran through a regional framework. Iran has China's structural support, economic oxygen Libya never had. So Iran can take a face-saving deal from stability, not collapse.
Second, the Bush arrives. No deal, bombing resumes. Pentagon quietly prepping for this. A classified briefing told Congress clearing Hormuz of mines could take 6 months after any deal. That tells you what the Pentagon actually believes. 3 carriers won't force an immediate fold. Bombing won't be quick. And satellite images show Iran used the ceasefire to clear debris from underground missile tunnel entrances. They rearmed. America used the ceasefire to extend. The second phase starts with a depleted U.S. arsenal. Over 1/3 of Tomahawks used. Half of THAAD and Patriot interceptors gone. Facing partially restored Iranian underground capability. Third, and this is what I believe China is working toward, an indefinite extended ceasefire that quietly becomes permanent without ever being called a formal deal. China has been in daily contact with both sides. Wang Yi called Arachi this morning and said the situation is at a critical stage between conflict and peace. China pressed Iran to open Hormuz earlier. That produced a brief Friday opening that collapsed within 24 hours because the blockade remained. China knows it can't force Iran to give up authority any more than America can. But China can facilitate an arrangement where shooting stops, oil flows through informal channels, and Hormuz's formal status stays deliberately ambiguous, resolved later under different conditions. China's interest isn't either side winning decisively. It's a surviving Iran, a flowing Hormuz, and a visible precedent. American blockades can't function without Chinese cooperation to end them. An indefinite ceasefire serves that best. Iran survives, Hormuz reopens, China's oil flows. And the permanent record shows the world's most important choke point was resolved when China's foreign minister made a call, not when America imposed a blockade. Watch what China doesn't say about Golubov's statement.
Read Golubov's full post, both parts together.
Reopening is not possible with the blockade, and the only way forward is recognizing the rights of the Iranian nation. Read the game theory underneath the decade of quiet. Read the Pentagon's classified briefing. Mine clearance takes 6 months after any deal. Then ask the question no press briefing is asking. If China spent a decade building the system that makes Ghalibaf's 6 words credible, payment systems, dark fleet, reserves, satellites, and America has fought 55 days without touching that system directly, what exactly is maximum pressure pushing against? This isn't prophecy. It's game theory and structural history. I said Hormuz would never open on America's terms. Iran's chief negotiator just said the same thing in 6 words. And somewhere in Beijing, in a briefing room full of people who spent a decade designing exactly this outcome, no one reading Ghalibaf's post this morning was surprised.